Good afternoon, you wee bastards, and welcome back to another War Thunder video with Koala. And today, we're back with some live gameplay. Haven't done one of these in a while. Actually, I haven't uploaded anything in a while, and I do apologise for that. I've had a few things going on in my life. I was actually out at a military exhibition in the past few days and haven't been home. There'll be a video out on that possibly tomorrow, maybe the day after. I can't promise for you lads. I hope you guys can bear with me, but you guys are amazing, so you usually do. Speaking of which, I have a new subscriber goal milestone set for the channel, which is 10,000 subscribers by the end of this year. Might be a little ambitious, but I really think we can do it. You guys are amazing and have shown so much support for the channel recently. Let's see if we can keep it going all the way to 10k this year. I've also had to deal with this. Oh my god. I'm dead already. Yep, there we go. I'm dead. Come on, just reverse the tank. It's not hard. There's a pedal in front of you. It says reverse. You step on it. You don't even... Got no chance. I'm not touching anything. Knock knock, server, anybody home? Nope. Yeah, none of that's edited. You can't make up stuff like that. That's actually how bad Australian internet is in this game sometimes. But today, we're taking out the British FV510 Warrior. We're gonna have some fun with this one. This is the first British light tank scout vehicle, and being a light tank, well, you guys know how it usually works. German and Russian shells are trying to make friends with your armor all day long. God, though, did Britain need this mobility. I mean, oof. Why did it take you so long, Gaijin? It is a shame that we don't have this mobility on what you can call a tank. Of course, this vehicle functions very differently, as I'm sure you're aware. Our main armament is this ATGM launcher right here, which we're going to be firing the Milan 2 ATGM, which is one of the highest penetrating chemical warheads in the game, or highest penetrating projectiles in the game. The only thing that beats us is the Raketen Jagdpanzer Hot, and of course the AMX-13 Hot, firing the same missiles. The interesting thing, though, is against certain armor types, this thing should have even more penetration than the Hot. Which it doesn't, but we'll get into that in a moment. Unlike the BMP-2, which this is the contemporary of, our gun armament is barely even what you can call usable. It is useful in certain situations, but it's never something you should be thinking about or relying on as your primary engagement, or even relying on it as a backup for engaging targets. It just happens to come in useful sometimes. Fantastic mobility with this thing, but as that usually denotes, we have no armor at all, and we only have 3 crew members. We're not really going to be likely to survive any kind of shell, and I know someone's going to bring up in the comments, oh, but the composite armor means you can withstand 90mm heat. No, it doesn't. This vehicle, despite weighing 23.5 tons, and being equipped with composite add-on armor, is hull broken the second a 73mm heat shell touches it anywhere. Because that makes the modification worthwhile. Annoyingly, I believe the TAM, or Tanque Argentino Mediano, also has hull break, despite that vehicle weighing over 30 tons, and being designated by the country that uses it as a medium tank or main battle tank. Come on, Gaijin, can we please standardize this? Please? Ay. I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent right now about the Warrior versus the BMP-2 and how they balance each other out, how they function differently, and why I think they are both at the wrong battle rating. So I will leave a link on screen and in the description below in case I forget, so that you guys can skip straight to the gameplay if that's all you want to see. If you're still around, however, here is why I think the Warrior and the BMP-2 are both in the wrong place. The BMP-2 is better than the Warrior, there's no way you can argue that. The thing has just enough penetration with its ATGM to be able to penetrate anything it's going to see. It has a gun that is actually usable. The ATGM is not nearly so high on the hull, so you can actually fire your ATGM at someone who is directly in front of you, whereas the Warrior can really struggle with targets that are basically barrel ramming you in the face. I've actually had that happen to me, it was hilarious. The BMP-2, however, is far more limited with its ammunition. You have a severe lack of staying power within the battle. So, whilst I believe per engagement the BMP beats the Warrior. As far as lasting through the entire match, yeah, I mean, what can I say? The British last longer. You want long-lasting, you choose the... Oh my god. The main thing that is better about the BMP-2 is the gun, and as an IFV, at least within the confines of War Thunder, you shouldn't be treating the gun as the main part of the tank, or vehicle. But the ATGM, whilst lacking penetration, does have a substantially quicker reload, which means... Well, as far as Fly saying he felt more crowd-controlling ability in the Warrior versus in the BMP-2, I honestly don't get what you could possibly mean by that, because not only does the gun have about 5 times the fire rate, it also has a higher elevation, meaning you can use it quite well against low-flying aircraft, particularly slow aircraft, and helicopters, and you have an ATGM that reloads much quicker as well. The ATGM also has a much higher explosive mass, meaning if you don't aim quite perfectly, you've got a much higher chance of one-shotting a vehicle, you're able to disable targets and move on to the next one far more quickly, and one thing that you do have in the BMP that you don't in the Warrior is a substantial amount of space between modules. Actually, this is where the add-on armor on the Warrior doesn't really come into its own, because what it does is give you what is considered by the game's engine a module, just like an engine or a transmission or a gun breech, on the sides and front of your vehicle that wouldn't otherwise be there. All that means is if a heat shell hits that, turns that particular module black, you're getting hull broken. The BMP-2 doesn't have that. There are many times where you can hit a BMP-2, not hit quite the right space, and just go in one side of the vehicle and out the other, without touching a necessary module and therefore not hull breaking the vehicle. Then we have the case of the Warrior having a lot more ammunition, not just for the main cannon, but for the ATGM as well. You literally have twice the ammunition storage. This is a significant factor within the playing of a match, as you can play the Warrior a little bit more carefully, a little bit more reservedly, without having to worry about going back to a capture point to reload once you've run out of ammunition, which you still likely will have to at some point during the match, but you can stay effective within the engagement, within the front lines, or somewhere around an engagement zone for much longer than a BMP-2 can. Thing is, that doesn't really matter in the slightest when it comes to your ability to engage and take out single individual vehicles, does it? You can take out an enemy in the BMP-2 more effectively than you can take out an enemy in the Warrior. It's just that once you've done that, there's less you can do before you need to reload again. It's for this reason that I think the BMP-2 is more effective than the Warrior, but for a shorter amount of time. But it doesn't help you when you're fighting against the Warrior or fighting against the BMP. One thing I can safely say, I'd much rather be going up against Warriors than going up against BMPs. At least as a one-on-one engagement, or me fighting against them. In the case of a match, or over the course of a match, however, the Warrior does have a lot less limitations on what it is able to do. It's just that the things it is able to do, it does less effectively than the BMP. It can just do more of them. I think that makes sense. Something that's definitely true is that the BMP-2 is far better at taking out the Warrior than the Warrior is at taking out the BMP-2, and this is because of the main cannon. Once again, you have a much higher fire rate. You don't really lack penetration, you only lose 10mm. Oh no. Anything the Warrior can penetrate, the BMP can probably penetrate as well, and anything the BMP can't penetrate, the Warrior probably won't penetrate either. You have a stabilized gun, which means you can fire on the move, where the Warrior's gun, whilst it is relatively stable on the move, it's not actually got itself a stabilizer, which means you're not guaranteeing you're hitting anything if you try and fire moving at 50 kilometers per hour. The BMP-2, however, may not be going 50 kilometers an hour. That's right, one thing you do have in the Warrior over the BMP is mobility, and in an IFV, or what is balanced in this game as a light tank, more on that in a moment, mobility is definitely your main trait. So to recap, the Warrior has the better mobility, one of the most significant traits for a light scout vehicle, which this is, and there are less limitations on it with it having far more ammunition storage. The BMP-2, however, in a one-on-one engagement with anything either of the two will see, is the better vehicle to be in at that time. In relation to the Begleitpanzer, well, here's where things get a wee bit weird. It's always been said that Germany has the most extensive, effective lineups in the game. That's their specialty, and until the latest patch, they did. In fact, as far as ground forces themselves go, completely disregarding helicopters, Until 10.0, with the Americans having 2 variants of the Abrams, they do have the most effective lineup. Because of this, the Begleitpanzer was always balanced as what it is, a support vehicle. It's not for use as a frontline tank, it's not a tank at all. As an IFV, its role within the confines of this game is more akin to a tank destroyer than it is a light tank. The Begleitpanzer is in the correct spot, I firmly believe that. It's not going to be as effective as an actual 8.7 MBT because it's not an MBT, it's a support, kind of like a healer in a MOBA style game. The healers obviously aren't going and trying to dish out as much damage as the tanks and the other more offensive units of their team are. They leave that role to those who are more suited to it. The Warrior and BMPs, however, are the ones that are in the wrong place. They are balanced as if they were light tanks, so that they can be effective in the light tank role just as much as an actual light tank or a medium tank or heavy tank at the same tier would be. Think of the RU-251, Panther 2, and King Tiger 105. These are 3 different kinds of vehicles, light, medium, and heavy, all 3 of them having equal importance and ability within the match. It's this balancing mindset that's led to the Warrior having a higher battle rating than the BMP. It has a lot more penetration on its ATGM. The thing is, that's not what an IFV is, or should be in this game. You should be encouraged to use a BMP or Warrior in the same role as the Begleitpanzer, a support vehicle, not in the role of a light tank, which is a supportive style of vehicle, but not in the same way as a Raketen Jagdpanzer II, for example. That's what these IFVs are. They're ATGM carriers, which are tank destroyers, given a gun so as to allow them to be more offensive in their role, and aid in saving their ass from the trouble they get into because of that. This is why it is my firm belief that the Warrior belongs at a battle rating of 8.7, alongside the Chieftain Mark V, which, given its mobility and the lack of up tiers to top tier because of 10.0, is actually not a bad tank right now. The BMP-2, however, should be made a battle rating 8.3 because of those limitations on it. It would actually be just as effective, if not more effective, at this tier, given the comparatively weaker weak spots of tanks at this tier. And its ATGM still retains the ability to penetrate pretty much everything it will see from the front. The BMP-1 would then go to 7.7. Once again, it shouldn't be balanced as if it's a light tank, it is a support vehicle. Now, those of you who are British fans, who I know you guys are out there, who were aligned with me when I defended the Warrior against the BMP-2, saying that the BMP-2 might be better, might be even more outraged at me now saying that the Warrior should not only sit at a higher battle rating than the BMP-2, but at the same battle rating as the Begleitpanzer, another vehicle which, like the BMP-2, is much more effective at taking out the Warrior than the Warrior is either of them. Why is this? Well, when you think about the functionality of these vehicles, the BMP-2 and Begleitpanzer have an equally effective, for engaging, gun and ATGM weapon system. The Warrior, however, has a more effective ATGM system, with unfortunately a slower reload, but a far less powerful gun. You trade something to gain something else. Here's the thing though. This little section on the end of the Milan 2 ATGM is known as a standoff probe, and effectively what it was designed to do is defeat explosive reactive armor before the missile itself touched it. For the sake of keeping things short, because a standoff probe could probably do with a video all of itself, basically what you need to know is that the standoff probe on the Milan 2 gives it an extra 200mm of penetration when facing ERA, or deletes 200mm of effective chemical armor coming from the ERA, giving the T-64B a total combined chemical armor value of 600mm, more than capable for the Milan 2 to penetrate it. The probe doesn't actually increase the penetration of the missile at all, it just increases its potency against ERA by 200mm. No effectiveness on actual tank armor whatsoever. Now, this isn't actually functionally modelled in-game, although it is visually modelled. The Milan 2 ATGM can't penetrate the T-64BV with its ERA, which it should be able to. If the functionality of the standoff probe on the Milan 2 were given to the Warrior, as well as its hull break should definitely be taken away, this would definitely be an 8.7 viable vehicle. The BMP-2 with its lower penetrating ATGM would then sit at a battle rating of 8.3 and be balanced there. You guys should definitely let me know in the comments what you think about this idea, and at the same time let me know what you think about this. Hull break was introduced to the game mainly to deal with flak trucks that were proving impossible, especially for the British to take out, as your shells just wouldn't damage them unless you hit crew directly. It is my opinion that no vehicle with a mass over 20 tons should have hull break at all. This applies to the TAM, the Warrior, and a few other vehicles in the game which do currently have hull break and I don't believe should. I did originally say that 15 tons should be the cutoff point, that way the Object 120 wouldn't have hull break and it should definitely be moved up to a battle rating of 8.0 or 8.3, alongside the BMP-2 funnily enough. I think either 15, 18 maybe, or 20 tons should be the cutoff point. Now, I know hull break doesn't relate to the weight or mass of a vehicle or its physical size, another reason I don't believe the Object 120 should have hull break, but it does need a cutoff point. There's no way you're telling me a 23.5 ton composite armoured IFV, still used in the modern day, will fall apart the second a 75mm heat shell from a Panzer IV touches it. Especially when you can be hull broken through modules such as tracks, cannon breaches, crewmen, and even the ATGM tube on the Warrior being hit. Trust me, it's happened. You think you're safe, you're hull down, being strategic, and yet nope. Heat shell to the missile tube and your entire tank is out of action. Anyway, I've spent almost 15 minutes talking about this. You guys can finish off the conversation by leaving your thoughts down below. I'd love to get into a discussion about this issue with you. Let me know exactly what you think on everything I've said. And without further ado, it's time to jump into some gameplay in the British FV510 Warrior. Those of you hardcore fans who recognise my channel's outro theme coming in a few seconds ago will have realised that yes, I've hoodwinked you. This discussion ended up being a lot longer than I'd originally intended or thought it would be, far too long to put as a beginning segment to a gameplay video. So I've decided to make this two separate videos on the Warrior, which I feel is deserved. The Warrior is a highly significant vehicle, an absolute ton of fun. It may have sounded here like I was trashing it, and I definitely was not. I really enjoy this tank when it doesn't glitch out for me. But to see that, you'll have to tune into the second part of this video, which I do plan to upload at the same time as this, so it should be out already by the time you're seeing the 17-minute mark of this video. There'll be an annotation on screen right now, link in the description. I do apologise for clickbaiting you or making you wait with a to be continued for the next part, but go over there, watch it, it's up right now. I hope you enjoy, and I hope you enjoyed this discussion, and let me know your thoughts in the comments section below.